Lewis Hamilton has finally done it. He's taken a win with the team in red, and it's the kind of moment Ferrari fans have been waiting to see. After spending a couple of difficult years trying to rediscover his rhythm behind the wheel, Hamilton is back in the spotlight. The 2025 season with Ferrari turned into a major reality check for the seven-time world champion, but in 2026, he looks like a completely different driver. Right now, he's making a strong case as Ferrari's leading contender and piling serious pressure on his younger teammate, Charles Leclerc, who is widely known as one of the fastest qualifiers on the grid. The veteran isn't backing down at all. In fact, he's taking the fight straight to Leclerc and even putting pressure on Kimi Antonelli's championship advantage. Hamilton has been on a remarkable run throughout 2026, and the scary part for the rest of the field is that he still looks like he has more to give. This victory wasn't just another race win either. It shined a light on a bigger story developing inside Ferrari's garage, one that has been building for quite some time. Last season was a rough adjustment. Hamilton walked into a completely new environment, struggled to connect with the engineers, and very little seemed to work in his favor during 2025. There were no podium finishes, and while that sprint win in China briefly got people talking, it ended up creating expectations that never really matched the rest of the season. Now, the picture looks completely different. Week after week, Hamilton keeps producing strong performances, and so far in 2026, there have been very few occasions where Leclerc has genuinely looked stronger. That shift is becoming impossible to ignore. Lewis Hamilton already looked incredibly sharp in qualifying. Going into the session, there were plenty of doubts about whether Ferrari even had the pace to fight for the front two rows. Most people expected McLaren and Mercedes to be the teams battling at the very top. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Hamilton delivered a stunning purple Sector 2 that grabbed everyone's attention. With a few tiny improvements elsewhere in the lap, he might even have been in the conversation for pole position. But the race was where Hamilton really reminded everyone exactly who he is. Throughout his career, one of his biggest strengths has been race management. He knows how to look after the tires, when to attack, and when to stay patient. That experience was on full display as he became one of the few drivers willing to commit to a bold three-stop strategy. It was a calculated gamble, and it paid off in a huge way. The safety car certainly helped at a key moment and made the strategy easier to execute, but Hamilton and Ferrari looked like they had the race under control regardless. The plan was aggressive, the timing was strong, and everything seemed to fall into place. Without the safety car, the battle may have been closer and even more exciting to watch, but Hamilton still looked like the driver most likely to come out on top. It was a well-earned victory, and another major statement in his growing 2026 comeback story. Behind him, George Russell secured his result, while Kimi Antonelli came painfully close to taking a position many felt was within reach before mechanical trouble brought his challenge to an abrupt end. Lando Norris completed the podium in P3, creating an all-British podium finish that fans have not seen in a very long time. Yet despite all those storylines, nearly every eye was locked on the driver standing on the top step of the podium, Lewis Hamilton. It was about as close to a flawless performance as you can get. In fact, you could argue it was a flawless weekend overall for Lewis Hamilton. There were a few small issues during practice, and at times, he didn't look completely comfortable with the car. But when the pressure was at its highest, he delivered exactly when it mattered most. That's something Formula One fans have seen from Hamilton time and time again throughout his career. Ferrari also deserves credit because this was one of the rare weekends where every strategic decision seemed to land perfectly. The team made the right calls, Hamilton executed the plan, and the result was a dominant victory. Even more impressive was how strong the Ferrari looked in race trim. The car appeared planted, balanced, and packed with confidence through the corners. It carried huge amounts of downforce and looked incredibly stable throughout the race distance. What makes that even more interesting is that Ferrari is still believed to be giving up some performance on the power unit side. Lando Norris even commented, "If they get the engine fixed, they're going to be embarrassing everybody." That's a bold statement, but based on what we've seen, it's not hard to understand why people are starting to think that way. The car already looks extremely competitive, and any extra straight-line speed could make it an even bigger threat. Those missing tenths on the straights may not be around for much longer. This race was also one of the few occasions where Kimi Antonelli didn't seem to have his usual edge. The big question moving forward is what happens when Antonelli is operating at his absolute best. Can Hamilton still take the fight to him consistently? Can Ferrari maintain this level of performance? Those answers will become clearer as the season progresses. For now, though, Hamilton looks like the strongest title contender from Ferrari. That brings us to Charles Leclerc's side of the story. Earlier, I mentioned that there has really only been one weekend where I felt Leclerc had the upper hand over Hamilton. That may sound surprising to some people, but Australia stands out. Even though Leclerc qualified ahead and dealt with pressure from George Russell, that was one of the few events where he appeared to have the stronger overall weekend. If you look at that final stint, the gap between the two drivers was incredibly tight. With just a few more laps available, there's a strong argument that Lewis Hamilton might have found a way past Charles Leclerc. It was a closely fought race, but in terms of race pace, Hamilton appeared to have the advantage. Qualifying was a different story though, as that was where Leclerc managed to get the upper hand and show his usual one-lap speed. China was much harder to separate. You could easily argue that both Ferrari drivers were operating at a very similar level throughout the weekend. Still, Hamilton seemed to have a slight edge overall, especially when it came to converting that pace into a stronger race result and finishing ahead. Then came Japan, which was arguably Leclerc's clearest victory in the head-to-head battle. Across that weekend, Charles looked more comfortable and simply had the stronger performance. Miami is where things become more complicated. Some would argue Leclerc had the better race overall, but there are factors that make the comparison less straightforward. Hamilton dealt with early setbacks after contact involving another car in the opening laps and spent much of the event trying to recover. Despite that, he still managed to put together a respectable performance and extract solid results from a difficult situation. Meanwhile, Leclerc has had several costly moments across the season. There was the incident late in Miami, followed by two separate mistakes during the Monaco weekend. Some fans pointed to difficult track conditions and circumstances, but the pattern continued with another error in Spain that damaged his race. Then in Canada, he simply didn't appear to have the same pace as his teammate. Those moments have only added more attention to the growing comparison between the two Ferrari drivers. Right now, it feels like momentum is firmly on Hamilton's side. There also seems to be an interesting psychological battle developing inside the Ferrari garage. Last season, Leclerc looked like the driver with the confidence advantage, while Hamilton was openly frustrated and searching for answers. At times, Hamilton was questioning his performances and struggling to find consistency. Now the picture looks completely different. The Hamilton we're seeing in 2026 looks energized, confident, and far closer to the driver who spent years fighting for world championships. That shift could become one of the biggest stories of the season, and it certainly looks that way right now. There's no question that Charles Leclerc still has the determination and desire to succeed. The challenge is that he's always been a very emotional driver. Someone who wears his feelings openly and lets his passion show. That can be a huge strength when things are going well, but when results start slipping away, it can sometimes affect his confidence and momentum. The good news for Leclerc is that he has shown before that he can recover from difficult periods and come back stronger. The question is how quickly he can turn things around this time. The clock may be ticking because Ferrari's leadership will naturally start paying closer attention to who is delivering the stronger results. At the moment, Lewis Hamilton is making a compelling case for himself. Several changes introduced since his arrival appear to be paying off. The revised brake setup has reportedly helped Hamilton feel more comfortable in the car, and the improvement in confidence has been visible on track. The fact that Leclerc has now moved toward a similar setup only adds to the conversation and suggests Hamilton's direction may be producing valuable results for the team. It's not just the brakes either. Ferrari has reportedly made a number of adjustments to accommodate Hamilton's preferences, including cockpit refinements, steering wheel changes, and other tweaks designed to help him feel more connected to the car. Those changes seem to be having a major impact. The version of Hamilton we're seeing now looks far more comfortable, far more confident, and significantly more competitive against a teammate who had the upper hand for much of last season. And if there's one thing Ferrari rarely lacks, it's intense teammate battles. Fans have seen this story play out for years, and it always creates drama inside the garage. During the Carlos Sainz and Leclerc era, Leclerc was generally viewed as the faster driver over a single lap, while Sainz often stood out for his race management, strategy awareness, and ability to influence key decisions. Both brought different strengths, which made that rivalry fascinating to watch. Before that, there was the Sebastian Vettel and Leclerc partnership, another Ferrari pairing filled with tension, competition, and high-pressure moments. Even when they respected each other, there was always an edge to the battle because both drivers wanted to be the leading figure within one of Formula One's biggest teams. Now, Hamilton and Leclerc are writing the latest chapter in that tradition, and the fight is only getting more intense. I don't mean that relationship in a personal sense. It's more like two highly competitive teammates who respect each other but desperately want to come out on top every single weekend. That kind of rivalry has always existed in Formula One, and Ferrari has seen plenty of it over the years. Back in the 2020 season, Charles Leclerc made a powerful statement about his place within the team. That was the period where many people felt he established himself as Ferrari's future leader. And from that point forward, the team seemed to build more of its long-term vision around him. For several years, the idea of Leclerc being Ferrari's clear #1 driver was a common view throughout the paddock. But in 2026, that argument has become much harder to make. With Lewis Hamilton rediscovering his confidence, delivering consistent results, and showing the same determination that defined so many successful years of his career, Ferrari suddenly has a very different situation on its hands. Right now, there doesn't appear to be a clear leader between the two drivers. Hamilton has forced his way into that conversation and is making it impossible to ignore his impact on the team. That's why the next few races could be so important for Leclerc. If frustration starts building, it can quickly become a difficult cycle to break. Austria feels like a key opportunity for him to respond. Historically, it has been one of Leclerc's stronger circuits, while it hasn't always been viewed as one of Hamilton's absolute best tracks. If Leclerc wants to shift the momentum back in his favor, this could be the perfect place to do it. More than anything, he needs to show that he can consistently stay ahead and reassert himself in the fight. The pressure is also significant because Leclerc has always been known as a driver who pushes right to the limit and sometimes beyond it. That aggressive style can produce incredible performances, but it also leaves very little margin for error. It's one reason why some of his toughest moments have come while chasing every last bit of performance from the car. Looking ahead, the championship picture is becoming more interesting with every race. Hamilton is closing the gap and currently sits in P2. The title fight is still a major challenge, but it no longer feels like a distant fantasy. There's growing optimism around Ferrari's future development path, and many believe further power unit improvements could help reduce the performance deficit. If those upgrades deliver what the team hopes, the championship battle could become far more dramatic in the races ahead. And yes, while Kimi Antonelli has generally looked stronger than George Russell through much of the 2026 season, there are always going to be weekends where Russell shines brighter. Spain was a good example of that. For large portions of the race weekend, George appeared to have the edge, but Antonelli still found a way to get ahead when it mattered. That's why it's so difficult to fully judge where Russell stands right now. One thing that hasn't changed, though, is his consistency. Year after year, he's proven that he can deliver solid results, and it's never wise to count him out of the fight completely. At the same time, confidence and pressure can completely change the picture in Formula One. Just as questions are starting to surround Charles Leclerc, Russell has also faced moments where expectations seem to be weighing heavily on him. Still, one point keeps coming up over and over again, and it's hard to ignore. Lando Norris may have been onto something when he said, if they get the engine fixed, they're going to be embarrassing everybody. That Ferrari looks incredibly strong from an aerodynamic standpoint. The downforce, cornering performance, and overall balance have been outstanding, and it's allowing Lewis Hamilton to drive with a level of confidence that keeps growing every race weekend. Ferrari deserves a lot of credit for that. For years, fans have watched the team struggle to find the right balance in certain areas of car development. Now, they finally seem to have built a package that gives their drivers a genuine platform to fight at the front. If they can continue bringing effective upgrades after Barcelona and keep making steady gains throughout the season, the rest of the grid could have a serious challenge on their hands. As for Hamilton, it's hard not to be impressed by what he's accomplished so far in 2026. You can make a strong case that he's been one of the standout performers of the entire season. And now that he has finally secured that first Ferrari victory, a huge amount of pressure has been lifted from his shoulders. For months, people questioned when that breakthrough moment would arrive. Now it's happened, and Hamilton looks more relaxed, more comfortable, and more confident than he has in a long time. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction, and momentum is a powerful thing in Formula One. The big question now is where this story goes next. How do you see the Ferrari teammate battle playing out? Is Lewis Hamilton now the favorite inside the team, or can Charles Leclerc fight back and reclaim the momentum? And looking at the championship picture, can Hamilton become a genuine threat to the drivers ahead if Ferrari continues to improve? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with other Formula One fans. Your support helps the channel grow and keeps these discussions going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.